Well, hello, everyone. Let's get a exciting cheer going on and some clapping for who's excited for today. For those that are new, hopefully you're a little bit exhausted. You'll be really exhausted after today because you're going to learn some great things today and collaborate with everyone in the room and peers. Always a good opportunity to learn more and to get introduced to new people. And having said that, we have 4 rock stars up here that we're going to be talking with today. All of you will be learning more about, some of the things that they're working on and challenges they're facing and how they're tackling their problems and challenges. So that's the goal of today for this session, to learn more about them. Hopefully this hits home and there's some synergies of some of the things that you're facing. But there are also everyone up here available, to talk with you more after this. We're going to start and go around, and maybe Colin, you can lead us, and they're going to introduce themselves and talk about how many years they've been working in this space and also how many years of experience they have with EnergyCAP.
Okay, so my name's Colin Hartwell. Associate Vice President of Business Operations and Facilities at University of Texas Medical Branch in Galveston. I run the utility plants and our auxiliary services, so fleet, courier, and all the student services. So I'll go into more detail on that later. I've been with UTMB for about 8 years, and we've been using EnergyCAP the entire time that I've been there.
Hi everybody, Amanda Holloway. I am the Director of Mayo Clinic's Office of Sustainability. And that role, I touch really all aspects of sustainability, whether it's energy or waste, water, food, engagement, climate, you name it. I'm probably involved. I've been with Mayo Clinic for 23 years now, and all of my roles have somewhat had some sort of sustainability aspect to it. Started with the organization running our materials recovery facility. We're a little bit rare in the healthcare industry in that we operate our own recycling center. And I've also overseen our waste and recycling programs as well as the environmental services teams before transitioning into my current role as Director of the Office of Sustainability. And we are new EnergyCAP customers, so we just finished our onboarding process and really looking forward to getting into all of the data and hoping that really helps us take our programs to the next level.
That's great. Michele?
Good morning. I'm Michele Markovits. I'm with Miami-Dade County. I am an energy management analyst. And I'll tell you, about 20 years ago, I went to an event that changed my life. And I left there with the question, are you going to be part of the problem or the solution? And that sent me back to school. And so it's never too late, I'm here to tell you that. And I became an environmental engineer, but somehow I always end up in energy. And about 11 years ago, I started with Miami-Dade County, and I've done various jobs there, some environmental. I always get back to energy, and I have been with EnergyCAP working with it for about 7 years in different capacities. The last 4 years, it's been all things EnergyCAP. That is my primary job. Thank you.
All right, and I'm Brandon Money. I'm the Global Energy and Efficiency Manager for a company called AFL Global. It's a telecommunications company, both manufacturing and installation. Remember our trip to Dallas at the Cowboys headquarters? We actually did all the installation for their headquarters and the new stadium there in Texas. If there's an NFL stadium you've been to, more than likely we were the people that wired it. I've been with AFL for 2 years. Before that, spent about 14 years with Duke Energy, both on nuclear and the generation side, and then the energy efficiency side. We implemented EnergyCAP and Carbon Hub in 2023.
That's great. And hopefully everyone sees here, even though we have varying levels of EnergyCAP experience, there's a lot of experience in the energy and sustainability space. Let me start a question here to Brandon. Manufacturing being a very challenging industry, a lot of scrutiny on sustainability. So can you talk about AFL's goals and ambitions around efficiency and sustainability?
Yeah, we were very much customer driven. I mean, sustainability is the right thing to do, but our customers are the Microsoft, Amazon, Googles of the world. So we were required to commit to things that are pretty out there: science-based targets initiatives, reporting through EcoVadis, CDP. If there's a reporting metric, they want us reporting to it. So biggest challenge for us has just been managing requests and reporting and figuring out what we contribute our time to. Our sustainability team is only about 8 people, so makes it very challenging to meet all the demands that are out there. So we just cut, dissect, attack what we can, try to get the most value out of it.
Yeah, thank you. Michele, so Miami-Dade County has been a longtime partner and user, and really is a prime example of energy and process efficiency. So can you share a bit about the county's approach to energy and sustainability and your journey through the years?
Sure. So, hello? Have it on. Hello? Hello? It says dead battery.
Here.
You can always count on something to go wrong. So Miami-Dade County has been at this for a long time. In the 90s, they were concerned about carbon emissions then and started looking at it. In the early 2000s, they started formally looking at greenhouse gas emissions, following some of the greenhouse protocols that we're all used to today, and they've been doing that ever since. And then our county has really grown in this area from an office, or really one person that was in one department, to an office of resilience that I think is about 24 people now. So from 1 to 24, funded and thriving and helping all the departments. And we, of course, have created a lot of things that all of you have probably created: sustainable building programs plans, an energy master plan, and a lot of work in our Office of Resilience, working with all the departments to implement these projects and have some success saving energy and money. Of course, tax dollars is important to our community, and the greenhouse gas emission reductions that come along with all of that. And so we keep working hard every day to reach those goals.
Yeah, that's great. And Amanda, Mayo Clinic, a lot different than county government and manufacturing, but Mayo's known for its innovation in healthcare. How has Mayo incorporated sustainability into patient care, facility operations, and what are some of the impacts you've observed?
Yes, I think the sustainability journey for Mayo Clinic has been really fascinating. The organization has been around for 160 years. And kind of a fun fact, but Dr. Charlie Mayo, one of our founders, actually started the garbage collection service for the city of Rochester. And it was started as a public health initiative, because refuse was just thrown into ditches and in the street, backyards, those types of things, and it was really a public health issue. And that garbage at the time obviously looked different than what it is today, but it was sent to the Mayo hog farm, and it was used to feed hogs. You fast forward to 1990 when we opened our recycling center, and we've been operating that recycling center ever since. And then on the energy front, in 2011, created a goal for our largest campus in Rochester, Minnesota, to reduce energy use intensity by 20% by 2020. And we were able to meet that goal early by the end of 2017, saving the organization over $27.7 million, which of course got the attention of our leaders. And hey, there's something that we can do here with energy conservation and cost reduction. But I think right now we find ourselves in a really interesting pivotal point with sustainability and energy and health. We are embarking on a significant expansion across many of our campuses, but particularly in Rochester, Minnesota. We're building 1.8 million square feet of new clinical space. And it's really cool to see our physicians and patient care providers really having the conversation about what the hospital of the future will look like. And so even conversations around, how the building itself can be a member of the patient care team. So whether that's embedding like sensors and technology into the rooms to help monitor patients, The conversations we're having are also around how can we provide patient care in a really resource efficient and sustainable manner, because healthcare is very resource intensive. We use a significant amount of energy, we generate a lot of waste. And so I'm really excited about what the future looks like, because this is really the first time that I've seen across the board within the organization, physicians, our facilities teams, engineers, food service teams, everyone is talking about how to deliver patient care in a really sustainable and human-centered manner.
Yeah, I think that is a big challenge. You have a 24/7 operation. It's really hard to reduce energy when that's the case. You have probably a growing list of machines and research and things like that going in the buildings, and so it's very difficult to create plans, when you have some of those odds stacked against you. Colin, also medical branch, campus and medical branch. UTMB plays a serious role in the resiliency of Galveston. So can you share about the mission and your use of technology, not only for resiliency, but for cost savings and sustainability?
Sure. So Galveston is an island that's just off the coast of Texas, for anyone who's not familiar with that. Our campus is about 10 million square feet, mostly healthcare. I would say about 6 million of that is healthcare, and the rest is research and academic. We have a unique mix on our campus. So on our research side, we operate Galveston National Laboratory, which is mostly BSL 3s and 4s. So very critical research that's going on. And then on the healthcare side, we have all the same challenges that you just walked us through. We also have what we call Hospital Galveston, which is part of Texas Department of Criminal Justice. We serve 80% of the inmate population for the state of Texas at our hospital. So from a resiliency standpoint for the community, we're a pretty important campus that needs to stay open even during adverse weather conditions. So because we are a barrier island, our main risk is hurricanes. So what we have done at our utility plants is we've installed 2 combined heat and power systems. It's actually solar, it's worth 60 engines, so they're roughly 5 megawatts each. And those are for creating our own power generation at our utility plants so that we can continue our chiller and boiler operation even through a Category 5 storm. So part of our role is to stay in the hospital after the island has been evacuated, treat any of the patients that couldn't be evacuated, including the inmates, and keep the research going as much as possible. So those combustion turbines, along with mitigations for flood and storm surge, have been our primary focus for the last, I would say, 5 years. And those also do play a role in sustainability. So because we're generating our own power, if we create excess power, we can sell it back to the ERCOT grid. So there's opportunities there to dispatch our power when prices are high, and then of course just buy from the grid when prices are low. We also have 2 million gallon thermal energy storage tanks, which we can use to mitigate peak shaving or force and peak changes for demand charges.
Yeah, so some really interesting, diversity up here. You have, we're talking, kind of long-term sustainability strategy and goals, and everyone's focus is vastly different. You have to collaborate within your organization in order to create these strategies and to meet the goals. So maybe, Michele, you can start us off, because I know Miami-Dade County is a lot of agencies, a lot of departments, like herding cats, across the county. So how do you collaborate with other departments and with peers within the organization to accomplish your goals?
I think that's a good analogy, right, for a lot of us herding cats. And the larger the organization, the more cats maybe. But I think some things have really changed across the departments, right? You have champions in each department that is aligned with your goals, so it's getting a lot easier to find your tribe, right? Working on the same things that we're all working on to reduce energy, save water, save money, reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And the way that we collaborate is probably similar to the way you all collaborate. I don't think we have anything necessarily creative there, other than it's at the forefront of everything that we do, reaching across the aisle and trying to break down those silos that exist, because all of our departments operate with their own management, and they have some autonomy. But like I mentioned, we all have the same administration and goals and directives, and we really try to align with those and find our people to meet those. Thank you.
Yeah. And Colin, how about you? Campus level, you have, again, different departments, different stakeholders. How are you able to collaborate with them?
So we have a lot of collaboration on campus and with the city of Galveston. So one of the projects we're looking at is with the city of Galveston wastewater treatment facility. We are considering running a pipe from their facility and using that water for irrigation and processed water in our plants. It could save us up to 500,000 gallons of water per day. So it's a pretty good partnership there, and the city seems to be on board. So hopefully we can get that moving forward. We also have a challenge, I guess I would say, with recycling as far as sustainability goes. We actually used to operate our own recycling center, and unfortunately the building got demoed, so now we're in the market of trying to figure out what do we do. And so we are partnering with the city of Galveston on that as well to use their recycling center, and probably want to pick your brain on whether or not we should rebuild a recycling center. But I'd say those are our major sustainability goals. Another partnership that we have on campus, we operate 3 utility plants, and we have several external customers. Those external customers rely on our chill water and steam for their heating and cooling. So our campus loop is around 21,000 tons on a peak day, and it's quite difficult to keep that cool in Galveston. So we do have to partner with our external customers on energy savings and how we can do demand response for each of their buildings as well.
Yeah. And you talk about partnering with outside organizations, right? With the city and with others, important to your success. And Amanda, when we were kind of huddling up for this session, you had talked about how you collaborate with other healthcare organizations. So can you talk about that and how you collaborate?
Yeah, honestly, it's been a really critical piece of the success of our sustainability program is really learning from others, both within the healthcare industry, but then also outside of the healthcare industry. We belong to an organization called Practice Green Health. They provide sustainability tools and resources for the healthcare industry. They host a conference every year and opportunities to engage. And one of our, maybe the organization that you might consider a main competitor is Cleveland Clinic. And we've been able to really form a great relationship with Cleveland Clinic and just learn from other really large healthcare systems because we have some similar challenges. And then, leaning on the resources available through like the Department of Energy and, participating in various groups like that. And conferences like this are helpful too to get exposure to what's happening outside of the healthcare industry because even though we may be doing things that are very different, we have a lot of the same challenges and, talk about how we figure out our energy data and just manage that. So, conferences like this are really helpful as well.
Yeah. Now, you might say there's some competition with you and Cleveland Clinic. I think we can all agree that any healthcare organization, there shouldn't be competition. You all are doing noble work that we all need. But speaking of competition, Brandon, in the manufacturing world, heavy competition there. But you had also talked about organizational collaboration. So can you expand on that?
Yeah, so I kind of divide it to internal and external. So internally, different business units for us, different product families, trying to get them all aligned on the same actionable goals is very, very difficult. So our goal with the things we've created is to ensure they're tied to things that manufacturing cares about. So by doing the things like reducing scrap, minimizing raw material input to a process, the end result of that is sustainability. So you don't have to, we didn't have to repackage it, make it the new woke culture in manufacturing with new terms like sustainability. We just had to relate internally to things they're already doing and maybe do them a little better. Externally, a good example for us is partnering with Microsoft. We're not an energy-intensive manufacturing process. Really, cable manufacturing has a motor on one end, a motor on the other, an extruder in the middle. So when we go to look for power purchase agreements by ourselves, there's not a lot of participation that we could get involved with. So we actually partnered with Microsoft to do a larger virtual power purchase agreement.
Yeah, that's great. When you're on your journey for greater energy and sustainability, master plans, you face challenges, internal and external. So maybe Michele, can you start us off? What are some of the challenges that you're facing, and how are you overcoming those challenges?
So, it's interesting, the challenges change over time. It used to be buy-in, right? You had trouble with buy-in, and now I think the buy-in part is there. And the short answer is funding, right? We have great ideas, we have great plans, we have people on board that have bought in, and everybody wants the same thing, but funding holds us back sometimes, and also prioritizing the priorities, right? So we have a long list of priorities, a large county, and so what criteria do you use to prioritize those? Because there's a lot of competing priorities. But the funding, like all of you probably go after grant money, and things like that. I mean, being creative sometimes with the grant money. I think, we originally got EnergyCAP through grant money. So, if you're looking to maybe even add to your EnergyCAP or your programs, there's things that you can do there. Even people, we've used grant money to add staffing. And so I'll say funding, and just finding ways to actually make those projects happen in our lifetime also, reducing the time to implementation in the government agency. Sometimes it can be a little cumbersome to get through those timelines, but we are really making headway. Thank you.
Yeah. Colin, campus level, funding probably still an issue, but what are some of the other things that you face?
Yeah, funding is definitely our biggest issue. So with healthcare growing as much as it is in our region, we're continuing to expand. So all of our capital dollars are going towards new hospitals, new clinics, diagnostic centers, whatever the case may be. And so getting funding for an energy savings project is very difficult. We've also had a rise in compensation on the nurses and doctors through the pandemic. So that really squeezes us operationally. So we're being asked to find operational savings without funding, and we're not being invested for future capital projects either. So funding is certainly the challenge. And then on our campus, we do have a mix of research, academic, and healthcare. And so each of those customers feel that they're the most important customer for different reasons. And there's compliance issues. There's always going to be a push and pull between our healthcare and our academic side. So that's always a challenge, to kind of be stuck in the middle as a facility support team.
Yeah, and something else that you had talked about as being a challenge is just access to data. So sub-metering and getting good data in place, because you don't have every building metered by the utility, and so how do you measure performance?
So we have quite a bit of sub-metering on campus, and one of our biggest challenges is keeping those sub-meters functional and calibrated. We do not have an energy management team currently. It's basically an additional duty for some of our workers. So that's a challenge to maintain around 400 sub-meters around campus. We have done a good job of getting most of those installed. It's just a matter of the upkeep and the preventive maintenance and calibration on those. So that is a challenge for us.
And what are you using the data to do?
So some of it's going to be chargebacks for our customers because we are operating the utility plants. And then a lot of it's just looking for energy savings. So we're pushing towards real-time fault detection and energy savings, and that's why we're looking to sub-meter each building, find out where our biggest users are and where we can invest the few dollars that we do get.
Yeah. And those are meters that you're installing yourself.
Correct.
Amanda, when we were talking, Xcel Energy being a very large utility in your service territory, we had talked about the slow adoption of smart meters by Xcel Energy, so you don't have as much access to some of that data. So can you talk about the value of that, and also something that we had talked about is discovering accounts that you didn't necessarily know existed through the process of getting everything organized and into EnergyCAP?
Yeah, and honestly, if you want to talk more about smart meters, I might need to phone a friend up in the audience. Drew Larson's our energy engineer and really the energy guru for the organization, so very much appreciate that support. But yeah, the onboarding process has been really interesting with, finding a lot of accounts that we didn't know existed, as you just said. which is good. You know, it's good to kind of flesh this stuff out because, you know, we were making what we thought were really good estimates for energy consumption for the entire organization. You know, we were also using that data to also help calculate, you know, our greenhouse gas emissions. And so now that we're getting better data, we'll be able to better measure and then manage, you know, all of that. And we'll have a comprehensive view of what's really happening within the organization from an energy and greenhouse gas emission perspective.
Yeah, and you had mentioned also that there's a $2 million energy fund that you're using to finance some of these projects, right?
Yeah, because just like was mentioned earlier, funding is obviously a challenge for us as well, especially for energy efficiency projects. There's a lot of competing priorities for, you know, infrastructure projects that are really high priority and really need to be done. And so propose to our leaders that we create an enterprise energy fund. So we've started that fund with $2 million annually. We sort of manage it. We have an energy management work group that prioritizes projects, so the facilities teams can submit projects for us. We prioritize which ones, you know, have the most potential for energy conservation or greenhouse gas emission reduction, and then kind of take that through to a larger group to release the funds for us. But we're now obviously having conversations about how do we increase that from 2 million to something greater so that we can have even more impact in the organization.
Yeah, that's great. Brandon, oh, go ahead.
Can I say something real quick about what Amanda said with onboarding? I'm curious out there, we had the same experience, and it continues to happen maybe 12 years later occasionally, where you find accounts that you shouldn't be paying for. Did anybody else have that experience when they onboarded? Yeah, that's always fun, right? But you do get it solved, and so I always find that fascinating that it happens, but it does. Sorry, we won't tell anybody beyond this room, right?
At the last Catalyst that we had, John Lord, 5 cents. Joke if you were in one of the other sessions. But John Lord had pointed out a really healthy exercise is to walk around and physically look at all of your meters. And that, I thought, was a really good takeaway, because how many of you have done that? Yeah. Was that after Catalyst, or just you've done it before?
Brand new.
Yeah, all right. But I think we see all the time that there's account ownership issues where you're, you know, getting bills and your finance team's just saying, great, like we'll just start processing and paying this. But do you even own that account? And in many instances, a meter might be going to a different building and you're getting billed for it. In Miami-Dade County's case, it was a FedEx hangar at the airport. Which we're not allowed to talk about. So that doesn't leave this room. But the issue being, you know, if you're managing hundreds or thousands, and in some cases in this room, it's tens of thousands of accounts, do you know that they're all yours? And that's really one of the lowest hanging fruit areas, just saying, are all these mine? And you would think that that wouldn't be the case, but it is.
And leases too, so for you all that have leases, when leases end, sometimes they forget to let us know, right? So there's a lag between the lease ending and you basically stopping the account. And of course, you know, the new tenants, they're all more than happy to let the county continue to pay.
Yeah, so Brandon, for you, you have sites international, a lot of regulatory requirements internationally. What are like the largest challenges you face, and how is your team solving those?
Well, one thing that jumps to the front of my mind right now is just new legislation, keeping up with it. Just here in the U.S., it's tough to keep up with. You know, one state can differ from the one right next to it. UK is a big challenge for us now. As more sustainability legislation comes out, you have things like carbon taxes, various fees for importing raw materials. So you almost need a legal team to keep up with things that are changing and new programs that are out there.
Yeah, I would imagine that for sure. When you're implementing these programs, you need to track the results and track metrics. So what are some of the critical metrics, we'll start with Amanda, that you're tracking, or maybe you want to track because you're just getting fresh off of implementation, that are important for your stakeholders?
Obviously, energy consumption is primary. Greenhouse gas emissions, so the organization has made a public commitment to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions by 50% within the next 10 years, and so tracking that as well. Really hoping to, lean on the EnergyCAP system. Like I said, we're using the utility management as well as the Carbon Hub platforms, and so have a lot of high hopes for, being able to easily run some reports, because there's a lot of interest from our leaders now that we've made this public commitment. Where are we? How far are we away from that? Where are the opportunities? So I'd say that those are really primary, but then obviously, really concerned too with water consumption as well as our waste generation as well.
Yeah. And when you report carbon, is it building based? Is it campus level?
So right now, when we're reporting as one organization. So we're reporting to the Department of Energy as Mayo Clinic. But I think, we'll want to at least get down to the campus level, because we need to know where our largest priority or where our largest opportunities are so that we can prioritize those projects. So yeah.
Yeah. And out of curiosity, in the medical field, when you talk waste, there's a lot of waste.
There is a lot of waste, and there's a lot of varied waste. Some of it's very dangerous waste and has a lot of regulation around it. So, just getting our hands around our waste numbers too has been a bit of a challenge, especially when we utilize, some varied vendors in the system, and each of our campuses are at kind of different levels of how they are tracking waste totals, whether it's, regulated medical waste or hazardous waste, general waste, recycling, and so on.
Yeah. Colin, we had talked about your use of normalized and actual data in your reporting. So can you talk more about that?
I can, but I have dead battery. So we do use normalized data quite often. So we want to compare those savings on use and dollars to a normalized weather-corrected data set. So that's our primary way of measuring when we're looking at energy savings projects, because obviously the weather is going to vary quite a bit each year, and so we want to always use that normalized data. However, the CFO and our finance team does like to look at the annualized data. So depending on who I'm presenting to and what the purpose of that data is, we flip back and forth between both of them, and that's one of the features we really like on EnergyCAP.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point. For those of you that are newer, you really need to understand that EnergyCAP does break down your data a couple different ways. And so you have to decide what, of those three ways, which is most important to report on. And normally it comes down to if it's cost information, it's actuals, and it's more energy sustainability, it's calendarized or normalized. But in Colin's case, it's depending on what audience they're sending reports to, need the ability to break up the data appropriately for that audience.
I'm just going to say audience is very important, right? Because I get Michele, just tell me, did we save energy or not? Did we save money or not, right? Depending on who I'm talking to. So the audience is really important, and having the abilities in EnergyCAP to really tailor that answer to them is very helpful.
And what are some more specific reports that you're running on a regular basis for your stakeholders?
So, I'm really trying to fine tune that, but right now I'm using the building. Yes, thank you. I'm trying to remember the number. Yeah, who knows the number? Candy, where is David? But that report, but now I'm spending time trying to teach the staff what's on the report, right? And so that's helpful. And then the comparison year over year is very helpful for my management. And you know what I just did? I finally got my senior management to log in and look at the dashboards. And I tailored dashboards for them to just log in and look. And that's eye-opening too, because, for 4 years I've been saying, please look at the dashboard. And so, to that I'll say, don't give up, because it can happen. And so they're looking at the dashboards, and I did two, one for energy and one for money, depending on who's looking. So, But yeah, some of those reports, but that building manager report's one of my favorite right now for the facility manager, because they're in the weeds, right? So when I talk to them, it's relevant to them, actually, the work that they do on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, and for those that aren't familiar, really the easiest way to go run the report, if you just click on a building in UM and go to quick reports, one of the options is building manager's report. It's a very nice summary with a lot of different views of the data on one page that you can give building managers. And it has degree day information in there, year over year comparison. So it's a nice snapshot. So a plug to maybe go check out that report if you don't know about it.
And if you're really feeling brave, do the distribution. So I started that, right, with the automated distribution. So I don't have to remember every month. And so that happens too. Even to my senior management, they get that nice little email.
Yeah, and Michele mentions dashboards. So show of hands, who has dashboards set up and actively use them? Who is going to start building dashboards? Great. I highly recommend them as well, because you can tell a story and you can set KPIs, again, to stakeholders. You could say this is for the group that needs to focus on cost metrics. You can set up a dashboard for them and easily share dashboards. So would really strongly encourage you to build some dashboards and share those with stakeholders.
And the map, I'll just add, the map is fun because people like the visual. So if you haven't mapped your facilities, those are fun, right? So the Seaport's a good example. It's an island. And so at the Seaport, it's fun to map because we've got the island and all their accounts, and the bigger the circle, the more energy they're using. So visuals sometimes tell a really good story very quickly. So you might even have some fun with the maps.
Yeah. And Brandon, in the world of manufacturing, you would look at different metrics than, say, the world of government. So what are some of the key metrics that you're focused on?
So we actually use RDBI to export the information to combine with the manufacturing data. So like an energy use intensity for cable, we will do kilowatt hours per kilometer of cable. If it's a metal foundry or aluminum conductor accessories, we'll do kilowatt hours per kilogram of product, whatever that product might be. So you can do that inside of EnergyCAP with the custom benchmarks, but makes it really easy in RDBI when you export and you're able to combine with existing BI reports that you have.
Yeah, that's great. Colin, we're going to have one more question here, and then we can open it up to questions from all of you. But what are maybe 2 or 3 pieces of advice that you would give everyone in this room to help them with their energy and sustainability reduction strategies?
I guess I would say just get started on it. Sometimes it can be overwhelming when you think about all the different goals that you may have or challenges that you're facing. And so even if you're starting small, just get started. Obviously, if you're all here, you've kind of taken that step with EnergyCAP as far as tracking the data. But that's really, I guess, the most advice I would have. And then just plan out into the future as far as possible. So for us, it's all about the utility master plan and what we want to do with energy savings moving forward, because the funding is always going to be a challenge for all of us. And so you need to be planning out 3 to 5 years or further. So I guess that'd be my advice.
Yeah, that's great. Amanda?
I think the primary piece of advice that I'd give is to really find partners within the organization. Oftentimes, sustainability teams are pretty small, pretty limited, but finding those critical champions within the organization, especially individuals that have authority, to help make things happen, can be really, really beneficial.
Yeah, that's great.
So I love the advice to start where you are, right? And with that, I'll say be bold, be fearless, always ask, right? It's a definite no if you don't ask. Like I mentioned, 4 years I asked for my senior management to look at dashboards, and I finally got a yes, right? So, keep at it. Don't give up. What you do makes a difference. Always remember that. And when you're feeling overwhelmed, I love the long-range plans, but reality is most of us are overwhelmed. So, just check it off one at a time, your items one at a time. And when you look back over the week, you've checked off a lot of your boxes. So just keep going.
And Brandon?
I would say involvement for us, both customers and internal stakeholders. There are people out there doing great things. There's a lot of assistance out there, whether it's paid or free. You have to partner with folks. Sustainability is tough. It is really tough, especially when you start messing around with Scope 3. So partnerships and help.
I need help with Scope 3.
I think we all do. Well, appreciate all of that great insight and input. Let's open it up to some questions from all of you.
You mentioned that you have used some grants to get some of your funding for various different things, including maybe purchasing software. Help me with that. I mean, how do we even begin? We're facilities managers. We're not really grant writers, or we don't have those skill sets.
Do you have grant writers in your organization? I mean, we're lucky enough to have that. So I usually supply the data that they need, like the technical data, how much anticipated savings, right? Typically, that's what it is. I mean, I'm not a grant writer either, but what I do know about it, and I'm sure other people could maybe speak better to that, is, read the grant, see what they want, and make it match what they're asking it to match. But show the savings, that's very important, showing the difference it's going to make. And like I said, we even went in other projects too. Sometimes it's staffing, because they'll fund 1, 2, 3 years of staffing, and then we take over after that if it's needed. So, but if you need to, find me after, and I can find you someone at the county that's a grant writer, and that maybe they could help you. But I definitely don't write grants.
I would think there'd be third parties that's what their business is. And if not, good plug for a new business. So someone get started.
In many cases, it sounds like all of you have continued and at least started to experience usage-related savings. But with inflationary energy costs, have you guys run into hurdles in reconciling the different constituents from a cost and a dollar perspective versus what's actually happening from a usage perspective, and how have you guys overcome those hurdles with those constituents?
There's always that one rough question.
I'm still processing.
Anybody? Well, I'll just give a short answer with the county. It's all about our budget. So when there's a huge increase like we had recently, a couple years ago, our FPL bills, anybody with FPL, I guess I shouldn't call it out, but it went up about 30% on some of our big accounts. And we didn't talk about volume. Miami-Dade County has about 10,000 accounts, almost over 15,000 meters, and we spend about $170 million a year on water and energy. And so it's significant when they have an increase, and so they meet with our budget director, and we budget it. And we also build in a contingency, so every year I'm asked, what did we spend, and what should the contingency be based on what they put before the commission in case it passes.
I guess I could speak to the ERCOT market a little bit for those of you who are familiar with Texas, and maybe your areas have a similar challenge. But in Texas, we've pushed towards renewables with solar and wind quite a bit lately, which has caused a lot of volatility in our real-time pricing. Our institution buys about 75% of our power on futures and about 25% on real-time pricing. So we're hedged out to 2027 right now. And when I look at the energy prices out beyond that, my utility bill will double in 2028. So we're looking at different opportunities to reduce our consumption, whether that's solar, geothermal, whether we do self-generation through CHP, or just electricity storage through batteries. We're looking at opportunities there to mitigate that risk of that doubling price coming in 2028.
I'm just curious to learn about your outlier investigation process. So let's say you get a very high consumption bill in water or gas. What is your process for investigating those, and how do you track those?
You know what, I'll just jump in real quick, because yesterday, while we're here, I got an urgent email because one water bill was over $4 million. So what do you do? First is I tell everyone, don't panic, right? Because it goes to senior management and immediately panic amongst the community. Normally, honestly, from an EnergyCAP perspective, I just void the bill so that everyone just calms down, and then I can work. And then I usually contact the utility and ask them to reread the meter, see what's going on, let them know that, we think that it's an error and that we'll wait to pay it. And then I usually reach out to the facility and ask them to go look for a leak, concealed or otherwise. Often we will find a leak. Or, I don't know if you've all experienced this, but even like toilets and sinks, people think, oh, because it's slow, it's not much, but it's a lot, right? And so I asked them to go do physical checks. We've even done checks at night and the weekend, which is a big deal for the county, and then just go through the process of investigating it on both sides.
I like the feature within EnergyCAP where I can flag and assign it to someone. I'm all about delegation. So bring it to their attention. Next time they log in, they have a message there, and it's, what's this for?
Nice, I love delegation.
Yeah, I love when I found that feature.
Well, and as a new user, I'm taking some notes on that tip as well.
Yeah, don't panic. That's the first thing. Don't panic, right? Because that doesn't help.
I have a question about Report Designer BI. I think Brandon mentioned he's using it. I personally extract the data from EnergyCAP and use it for a BI tool. I'm looking to know more about what you do with Report Designer BI.
Let's catch up after this, and I can walk through just some of the dashboards we've built. If anyone's interested, we've got, I think, 12 different pages now of data for different sectors. I'd definitely show it to you.
And there is a session tomorrow morning that Dave's going to run on that topic.
And Carbon Hub is also going to be in RDBI soon.
Okay, so every organization is set up differently. We all have different high-level priorities. I hear sustainability, I hear energy. Talk to me about your staffing to support all of this amazing data that you have in EnergyCAP. It's great that we have it, but the more we get, we have to do something with it. We need the bodies to take action on it and take a look at it. So I'm curious as to how much staff you have looking and taking action on your energy data.
Well, as I mentioned, sustainability teams are typically pretty small in organizations. The Office of Sustainability, technically I'm a party of one. I mentioned our energy engineer, Drew Larson. Super grateful for the energy focus. So we have at least one individual who's dedicated to energy. We also have another individual who's helping pay those utility bills. But then, I mentioned partnerships before, so even though the Office of Sustainability technically isn't large, we do have others in the organization that play smaller roles, but am obviously hoping to grow the team.
I killed another microphone, sorry. So we don't have an energy manager or an energy management team. It's all additional duties for our facilities team. Sean Finnegan, who's here with me today, she'll be up on the next panel. She's kind of our one-stop shop for everything as far as EnergyCAP goes. And then she's kind of got to beg, borrow, or steal to get time from anyone else as far as technicians going out to fix problems. So we have a real issue with staffing. I think that's probably a trend for most people.
Yeah, definitely staffing. I'm the only person for EnergyCAP officially full-time, and across the departments, I think most of the staff would tell you it's their side gig, and they have other jobs that they do. For me personally, my immediate supervisor has the same philosophy. I show up. I show up in their office, I show up at their facility, and I stand there and make my case. So, again, be fearless, ask, and slowly build your tribe. But like I was talking about, find your people in your departments that are trying, because I think you mentioned it's difficult, right? It's difficult to overcome these challenges. You can't do them alone, and finding people that are on the same page. How to do it is also challenging, right? Because a lot of people in the facilities, when I talk to them and show them a graph, That's not what they do on a day-to-day basis. So when I say, well, here it went up 30%, they understand that, and what do you think caused that, right? And try to, again, tailor my conversation to the people I'm talking to that can actually go in and make a difference.
Let's go one more question, then we got to go break and move on. No more? All right. Oh.
Colin, you had mentioned earlier that your team goes through and recalibrates and maintains your meters. Is that strictly on like the steam, the water and gas side of it, the wages side of it, or are you also calibrating and confirming your electric meters? And if so, what are you guys doing to do that?
So we can go into detail afterwards, but we are doing electric as well. So hot water, chill water, steam, and electric sub-metering across campus. And like I said, the challenge is calibration. We have one instrumentation tech, but they're also responsible for the utility plants. So typically the utility plants come first, and then we'll get to the sub-metering. But we can go into details on what we're using and how we're tracking the electrical sub-meters.
I thought of one thing I'd like to add when we were talking about the grant money and the staffing. Also build in your O&M, right? Because that happens. You get the capital funding, but then you don't have the staff for these advanced systems, right? So whether it's training the existing staff, which is very important, or hiring new staff. So, that's a lesson learned, right? Is including our O&M.
Yeah, well, let's give a round of applause to these four up here.